Hello, I'm Natasha Doucas, president of Squash BC, and today we're highlighting an award with Squash Canada Certificate of Achievement with our very own in BC, Brian Covernton. And I want to explain first around the award, around this Certificate of Achievement for 2022. And these certificates by Squash Canada are based on a individual's contributions to squash at the provincial and territory level, and that they've already received top recognition in the province as well, which Brian has received and been recipient for several Squash BC awards. And the recognition is specifically around the volunteering and the contribution to the game. And we wanted to really highlight Brian this year based on his contributions to Squash Canada on the officiating committee. He's been on the committee for several years. I'll let him go into details about how long, but he's been on the committee for several years, and he's been chairing as well the officiating committee for the last couple of years. He has also been involved in the doubles competitions committee as well for probably a few decades. So his contribution has reached not only provincial, but on a national level. And we wanted to make sure that was really highlighted this year. And so I'm going to turn it over to you, Brian, and say, congratulations for this award on a national level. This is exceptional. Your contributions to the game, contributions to not only on a national level, but on a provincial level. You've been in this sport for decades, and you have mentored people, you have guided people, you have been there to support people. And I want to really thank you from the bottom of my heart and of the organization for all that you've done in this sport.
Well, thanks, Natasha. I really appreciate the award and your kind words. I've been in the game for forever, it seems. I started squash in 1968 as a 13-year-old boy, and loved it as soon as I got on the court. And fast forward, I've been in the game, 50 some odd years, and contributed in a lot of those years dating back to the 70s. When I was in our junior program, my mentor, Ed Warner, everyone called him Uncle Ed, coached a lot of us juniors, including the DeZoniers and Andy McDonald and a bunch of other kids in the early 70s. And he always said, if you get a lot out of this game, you got to put back, you got to pay it forward. And I've taken that to heart. He taught us a lot of life lessons, and that was one of them, to contribute back. If you're taking out of the sport, you got to give back to, balance the table. And so I, in the Squash Canada, I was chair of the doubles officiating committee for 5 years, took over from Craig Hall, who did it the first 13 years. The committee was formed in 2003, and I was an original member, and was off the committee 2021. My time was up, long overdue, I guess. And I was also 6 years on the doubles, competitions or doubles, the doubles committee, which the officiating committee is a subcommittee of that. I was on that in the first 6 years, in 03 as well, 2003 to 2009, and did that. But a lot of the work has been done on a more of a provincial level. I've run probably over 100 tournaments in my career. I know I've run the Pacific Coast as the chair or co-chair 5 times. That's a tournament that rotates, as you know, between Vancouver, Portland, and San Francisco. Promoted the sport there in those other cities. Ran 3 national tournaments, the mixed doubles in 1988, the 1990 men's and women's, and the 2000 men's and women's at VRC. And was on the Lapham Cup committee in '89 when the Lawn Tennis and the Rackets Club hosted. Was captain of the Lapham Cup Grant Trophy team that went to San Francisco in 1990, and at that time we were the largest visiting team to play. There were 46 players which at that time was a big number, but now it's expanded with the Wilkins, the Crawford Cup, and more participants, including women, which is fantastic, into that event. So it's obviously bigger now than it was 30 years ago. But yeah, so there's been a lot of, I was 20 years as the Squash BC doubles committee chair, self-appointed really, back in 1980. Doubles was in fear of losing, Rackets Club was in trouble. There was rumor that they'd lose the court. So what we did was we started up a doubles league in the city with 2 courts, the lawn and the rackets. And we had other members from Jericho and the North Shore playing, and we started it. We started something, and it evolved from there. But back in those days, we didn't have email, Zoom. So a lot of the work for running tournaments, you didn't send out an email blast, you phoned. I phoned.
Wow.
I was phoning and before the entries closed, and you put entries up at a club on a bulletin board, which nobody looked at, right? So you had to hammer away. So there was a lot of a labor of love to get these things going and making people aware. And so, yeah, it was a lot of things going on, but it was great. I guess I was rewarded for my efforts in the early 80s. I was the Jack Larson winner in 1988 for contribution to squash in BC, which is unbelievable. I still think back on that, and it was looking at some of the players and volunteers that are on that trophy before and since. It's a who's who of squash in BC,
Definitely.
of contributors to the sport and stuff. So it's been a great run. Squash has meant a lot to me. It's my social fabric. I've met a lot of friends in the sport, both here and in other cities that I've played in. It's fantastic. It's part of my life, and it's as I'm sure you've realized, you got the same addiction I've got,
The doubles
sport.
bug. The doubles.
Yeah, the sport.
Yeah, I mean, I know you from the doubles. I didn't know you during the singles time, but from the doubles, it's you have been that person that I've come to for everything related to doubles, right? Like, what do you think about, do we think we can host the nationals this year? What do you think about the doubles committee, right? How can we get more engagement from the league to the officiating to all these things? Like, you're the first person that comes into my head of like, okay, we need to find a solution, or maybe think of different ways. And I always come to you. And, a few times we've talked about, doing some more cross-border travel to Calgary or to Edmonton, and working with those guys over there of how can we grow a lot of the traveling between our 2 provinces, Pacific Coast, right? So you're always the first person that comes to mind of like, okay, how can we grow this more and get more excitement and get people more excited, just like we are. We love this sport to death, and we just love being involved with the community, the squash community as a whole. As you said, it brings out a lot of friendships and camaraderie and so forth. So Brian, it's over the years, I think it's like, I don't think a month has gone by where I haven't spoken to you, whether it's on, whether it's at the club, at a tournament, at an event. We were at the officiating event over the summer, or like a couple months ago. So I just love picking your brain and coming up with ideas and how we can just, take things forward. So I really appreciate you bending your ear to me all these years.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Yeah, you do yeoman's work. You've done amazing amounts of work in the sport as well. So I don't know how many years you've been on the Squash BC board, but it's probably a big number.
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of what the sport has done for you, because we've talked about, the social aspect, You know, Covey, I know that you play on like Sundays of friendlies, but then you're there competing high level for the tournaments, especially the BCs, which is very, the provincials are very competitive. The Pacific Coast, that rotating tournament in 3 cities, that's very competitive. And then at the nationals levels,
Yeah.
the seniors and the mixed as well. So, you know, and also your experience with the officiating and really driving the officiating numbers, but we'll come back up to that in a moment. So, you know what, I mean, you look at this sport on so many different levels and been involved. What has the sport done for you over these years? You know, like, how do you feel that it's filled your bucket, if you wish, the sport?
Yeah, it's given me some satisfaction. Like I'm not the most talented squash player, but I try hard, I work hard, and I've had some results that I'm proud of. Um, and you know, the other part is, you know, the camaraderie and that's a big part of it. But I do want to compete. I'm a competitive guy. Uh, Played years ago with my buddy Larry Armstrong in doubles. We're a couple of childhood friends, and you know, we'd take on players that were singles players that were way better than us, but we could compete with them on the doubles court because we could cover each other and stuff like that. Amazing stuff like that. That just, you know, it's wonderful to experience, and because I guess I've gotten more out of my game than I ever anticipated, you know, because you know, I know people tried to coach me on hitting a proper backhand. Well, that never worked. And, you know, stuff like you know, I just work hard, and I feel that I've given it all. And every game I go out, as my Uncle Ed used to say, you go out and you do your best, you shake hands and be a good sport, and that's the two kind of rules. And you respect your opponents. Those are the three I've always remembered. And it'd take you a long way, you know,
Yes.
and it's taken me farther than I'd ever dreamed I could do in the sport. If somebody told me when I was 13 that I'd be sitting here 50 years later, um, and looking back, I'd say, well, it's better than I'd ever hoped, you know. And yeah, so it's,
Oh, that's amazing. That's
yeah,
amazing. And then, you know, you are a jester in the BC Nest
yeah.
as well. How many years now has
Since
that been?
1983 was my induction year. I was 26 at the time, I almost 27. So
Wow.
yeah, and it's been wonderful. The Jesters tournament
Mhm.
had started, I believe, the year before. I think it might be 81. I could check on the website, but it might have been the first year was 81 or 82. And I ran it in 83 to 89. And I've been on the committee, the Jesters Doubles committee, or chaired it 34 years out of the 40 that it's happened.
Wow. Wow.
You know, so I've subsequently retired. Tony Goodson and I retired, and we mentored a new group this past May for the tournament. So but I'll still be involved. I'll still referee and, you know, come out for a couple of nights and stuff like that. But it's just it's succession planning
Mhm.
to get people that haven't done it to start doing it, because, you know, we're not around forever. And you know, if we keep doing it, then all of a sudden we're not there, then what happens, right?
And
So
that's so critical, right? Is how do you guide the next generation to do, you know, the tournament chairing, the refereeing, you know, all these different aspects. And so the Jesters has been a significant contributor to the sport. There's junior events, there are senior events, there are doubles events, and there's socials as well. So
yeah,
it's been great. And you've done an excellent job as well as fundraising as well. You want to
yeah.
talk a little bit about that?
Well, the fundraising is the Jesters Doubles a number of years ago, not terribly long years, but it started to do the 2020 fund. Some of the proceeds of the Jesters Doubles I'm guessing about 10 years ago, would go towards the 2020 fund for junior development. Now it's evolved now the last couple of years or so to the Build the Future Fund, which is more direct impact, roving ambassadors and talking to clubs and, helping grow the sport in other regions of the province, which is super important. So funds have been put towards that from the Jesters Doubles, and a lot of jesters have contributed directly individually. Mm-hmm. I have, but not on a huge sum. But I've contributed some money to the cause as well. So
and a lot of your time too. A lot of hours.
Yeah.
So I mean, that is greatly appreciated, right? So that is worth gold in terms of those hours and your experience and guiding, as I mentioned, the next group, the next generation. So it's so much appreciated on that. And then if we look at, the competitions and on a Squash Canada level on the national side, I know that they had canceled the doubles, the national doubles this year, the seniors and the mixed. That'll come back into play next year. So what are your plans moving forward with all these committees that you're, mentoring, and then your competition and just the sport? What are your plans in the next year?
Well, I hope to continue playing. Bad knees all in and whatnot, and I'll be still co-chairing this BC Doubles Squash Committee with Jillian Anderson. That's been great. She's wonderful. I'll also be still in charge of the officiating part of it for now, although I will probably be looking at trying to get another national referee in our pool of 9 or 10 national referees to take on a national examiner role, which means you have to do a clinic and, various criteria like that, which I'm hoping so that others, there'll be another 1 or 2 national examiners come on board to help Greg and I ease out of it at some point. But that's kind of that part. I will run the gamble tournament, the charity gamble tournament for Autism Speaks Canada in December. That's strictly a rackets club tournament because Ross Gamble was a member of the club, and we have this doubles tournament to commemorate him and in memoriam. And I'll certainly help out with local tournaments if I can with refereeing or something like that. So yeah, it's still going to be on it, but easing out at some point. And my wife's sitting across in the living room here going, shaking her head.
Don't worry, we're going to run a campaign and look for people, and you know what, we can voluntold some people as well. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, the officiating is, is such a needed aspect of the sport. You can't have this sport on a competitive level without that aspect. And I find I don't know if you can expand on it further, but I find from officiating, you get a different perspective of the game. And I know for me, it has helped me on court. And anytime I've tried to explain some of the rules and just to guide and watch and what's a lead and versus a point and the movement, understanding the movement, that seeing it from outside the court and having that, that objective view has really helped me as a player improve my game, whether it's even on the singles court as well or the doubles. I'm more of a doubles player, but just watching things from above, from a critical eye, that has helped me tremendously. So officiating is, I find it a very rewarding aspect, not only as a contributor, but as a player as well.
Yeah, totally. I've said to people that even if you just take the clinic and don't take it any further than that, like as a certified referee, just to know the rules and it'll help your friendly games. It'll make you more knowledgeable and enjoy the game more because you've taken the course, right? You've taken the clinic, you understand what points are and lets are, and stuff like that. It's invaluable. But it's hard sometimes to get people to ref in tournaments. You have to have this winners ref the next match routine, and hopefully even the losers of that match would line judge, but yeah, you don't hope for too much. But it's if you can get more people reffing at tournaments,
Yeah.
that they might appreciate more the difficulty it is to referee and just keep simple score. I mean, with the tablets now, the tablets are on board. They sometimes kick out, and they don't have it breaks down or something. You still should properly score by hand or know how to do it, because I've had the tablet sometimes, and all of a sudden it just goes on its own somewhere, and and I throw up my hands and I say, I'll score by hand, right? But it's going to be good. I think with the tablets, if they work, it'll be fine. It'll take a little bit of the burden off scoring, marking on a sheet, but still, it's important to know that. And a lot of people that play the game can be really tough on court as players to referees, but then when they're sitting in the chair,
It's a different
not the
story,
same.
right?
It's a different story. Like,
Yes.
they're having to call stuff right away and make a decision and not wait. You can't wait. You have to make a call right away. And then it's very difficult for players to do that sometimes, because they, and it gives them a whole new perspective on the game. And it might make them a better player on court too, if they realize that refereeing's not an easy job.
It's not easy, because you have to be looking at all different aspects, and you have to have your eyes on the court, right? Watching the ball, watching the players at all times. So that's why I love the tablet. I've used it a few times. It takes, like, as you said, it takes a little bit of practice, but you know what? Within a few times, you're just tracking, the score quickly with just one press of the button, and then you focus on the game, right? Not worried about writing things and missing a serve. You're there focused on every aspect, which that's really good court management as well. So
and the scores are streamed online too then, so the scores are posted like right after the match is concluded, right?
Oh yeah, it makes it easy, right? So much easier. So that's great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Covey, you have been a pillar, and you still are a pillar of this community. We all love you for, your dedication, your passion for the sport. And I just want to, again, congratulate you on this amazing honor of the Certificate of Achievement Squash Canada, and for your contributions to the game on a national and provincial level. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Natasha. It's always a pleasure talking to you. You're one of my faves.
You are mine. Thank you so much.
All right.